Hi everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video, I'm going to show you a one-key team for Hard Hydra. Okay, one-key Hard Hydra team using 5 epics and this guy behind me. 1 legendary only, and it's Shamrock. A lot of people consider him to be a complete meme champion. I mean, you look at him, it's understandable, right? But he's actually fantastic for Hydra. Actually really, really good. Let's look at his kit real quick, and then I'll show you quickly how he's built. We'll see the run then in action. So his A1, I actually don't have this fully booked. His other stuff is fully booked though. But this is a double hitter, and each hit has a 60% chance of removing a random buff from the target. That books to 75% chance. And if a buff is removed, he has a 35% chance of stealing the buff, which books to 50%. I actually decided to give you more clear maths so you can see exactly how it works. Now, if he's unbooked, 2 60% chances actually gives you an 84% chance to remove one of the buffs. There's a 29% chance then overall that you would steal one of the buffs. You got a 36% chance to remove 2 buffs from successfully in the 1A1, yeah? If you book it up to a 75% chance, you actually have a 94% chance to remove a single buff, which is only slightly higher. So if they only have 1 buff, you're not getting that much more benefit in terms of removing it, but you have a much higher success rate of converting that into a steal. And then when it comes to removing 2 buffs with a single A1, he's much better. You actually have a 56% chance to remove 2. So it sort of depends. This is, though, it's very, very good for Hydra, right? So key buffs to steal or remove, more importantly perhaps, reflect damage on Head of Suffering is very bad, and you can just kill your damage dealers with that. It can be very dangerous. And of course the ally protection he puts out as well, stealing that away is very, very nice. Increase attack on Head of Wrath. You definitely want to get that off the Head of Wrath as quickly as possible. Shamrock lets you do that, which is awesome. You can also, of course, steal back some buffs when Head of Mischief steals them and spreads them around, which is pretty good. But yeah, this is cool. And the reason that I will book him out eventually, very important here, but we can actually use him to tank Head of Mischief, right? If he successfully steals buffs, therefore he's likely to have more buffs than anyone else on the team. That means that Head of Mischief will target him, and if we build him with high resistance, then Mischief won't be able to steal stuff back off of him. So he can potentially be a decent tank to limit what Head of Mischief does. Now, it's not super reliable because it relies on them getting a buff and him stealing it back, but it's something to be aware of. Now, his A2 is actually really good. 3-turn cooldown when booked, increased defense on all allies for 2 turns, and then it does 2 different things. If they're above half health, increase speed for 2 turns, and 50% books to 70% chance, increase crit rate for 2 turns. If they're below 50% health, gives them revive on death for 2 turns, and a 50 books to 70% chance for continuous heal for 2 turns. So this actually is a really good move, right? High on health, increase defense, increase speed on a 3-turn cooldown. That's fantastic. That's really, really good. And then increased defense with revive on death and a really good chance for continuous heal is an excellent way to keep your squishier champions alive, right? So if you start getting overrun, you start falling apart, this move actually turns from giving you increased speed to giving you a ton of survivability, right? So against the Head of Wrath in particular, you're gonna feel a lot safer, a lot better about your run when everyone has revive on death on them. There's nothing worse than doing Hydra and Head of Wrath. Has it happened to you? It's happened to me a couple of times. Head of Wrath one-shots your team, and you know your heart just stops. It falls into your stomach. You go, oh wait, my run just ended. Oh my gosh. Revive on death really helps with that. So this is a great move. The only bad thing is this increased crit rate. This can be a bit dodgy. Again, extra random buff can be bad. If this goes the wrong way, it can have Head of Mischief start targeting like your damage dealers if they get it, but your supports don't, and that's definitely not what you want to happen. So that can be kind of annoying. And of course, you're going to build your damage dealers with 100% crit rate anyway. This is fantastic for like Doom Tower. It's fantastic for Faction Wars. For Hydra, it's kind of a pain. It's going to give you a bit more damage off your supports, but it's not that important. I'd actually love it if they rework this ability to just give you increased defense, speed, and revive on death with a 70% chance of continuous heal. That would make Shamrock like insane, but he's still really good. So increased speed and defense most of the time is what he's going to do. But he also brings you decreased speed, right? This is a place, this is not an attack, doesn't attack, so this does go through Poison Cloud, puts 30% decreased speed on all enemies for 2 turns. Turn meter depletion does not work on Hydra, but it will give you a little bit of turn meter fill if any enemy's turn meter is below 50%, which can happen semi-often on Hydra. There's 4 of them after all, so not too bad. 4-turn cooldown. So yeah, he's giving you, basically what he's doing, he's coming into your team, gives you increased defense, increased speed, Also can save people when they're low on life. He brings AoE decrease speed. So the two really important things we want to min-max our Hydra runs, make it better, giving us more speed and lowering their speed so that the devour mechanic is basically counteracted in a big way, and a little bit of buff removal and buff stealing. He also has a 70 accuracy in all accuracy aura in all battles. Ally accuracy, tongue twister. This is really good though. This can really help you push up to higher difficulties, makes gearing much easier. You can absolutely plan around it. I'm not using it in this run, but you absolutely can plan about using this and use it to great effect. So we come to his build. This is how I have him built out. So I've got him at high speed. He doesn't need to be that fast, but this is a good speed for like Nightmare Hydra. It can obviously be lower, like 220 would be a good thing to aim for lower difficulties of Hydra, you know? But for Nightmare, 249 is actually going to be plenty. I have him at 415 resistance, which is specific for hard, and 296 accuracy, which is slightly more than we need for hard. It's more like brutal levels. I'll show you those in a second. And we have him in some defensive stats. In terms of his gear sets, I actually have him in a 4-piece of Guardian, which is going to just make our team tankier, right? He's going to reduce all the damage all the squishy champions especially take by 10%. He'll take it instead, and he's going to heal himself a bit every turn. This is, again, just why not? Why not put this on if you can afford to? If you can afford to, this is the best set. Now, obviously, to reach higher resistance numbers and get this stuff working, you can absolutely switch this for like triple perception if you need it for the accuracy. Or, again, to reach the required resistance, you could have him in like triple resistance set, have him with low enough accuracy, and let the aura fill in the accuracy for you. How much do you need? I'm sure you're asking. Here, let me show this to you. This is really important, guys. So basically how resistance versus accuracy works. If you have equal accuracy and resistance, it's about a 93% chance that a debuff successfully lands, right? If you got 43 resistance more, it goes to a 50-50. And then you want about 100 resistance more than accuracy, or you want to exceed their resistance by 20 accuracy to start landing things at the 97 or resisting things at the 97%. There's always a 3% chance that even if you got like a million more accuracy, there's always going to be a 3% chance they resist. And even if you got all the resistance, there's always a 3% chance they land the debuff anyway, right? So for normal, Head of Suffering has the highest resistance, 190. That's including his passive, which gives 50 more resistance to everyone. So 210 accuracy to really consistently bypass that. On hard, you're going to want 260 accuracy. On brutal, 325 accuracy, and then on nightmare up to 405 accuracy. Now that's actually quite intensive. That's definitely hard to hit. That's where the aura becomes really good. And of course, when suffering isn't there, it's just minus 50 from that because he gives them 50 resistance with his passive. So it would go down to 355, which is very reasonable. And then this number is based off of suffering's resistance. He actually has the highest resistance of the Hydra heads. The other heads have less resistance, so you actually would need even less. So maybe like 330 accuracy is going to be fine for Nightmare when suffering isn't there, but it goes way up when suffering is, if you want to land debuffs, especially on suffering. Now, to resist Head of Mischief is quite nasty. He has 250 accuracy on normal, right? So 350 resistance for normal, about 410 for hard, about 445 for brutal, and 450 for nightmare. Now you might want to go slightly above those to get it to that, you know, guaranteed 97% chance to resist. Slightly higher might be better. And you know, decrease accuracy. The decrease accuracy debuff makes this much easier as well. So you can see with 415 resistance, I have my Shamrock ready to go for hard. He's going to be great. It's actually not that far. Look at this. We go from 445 to 450 from brutal to nightmare. The increase between the two is ridiculous. They should really nerf Mischief's accuracy at these lower levels so that there's a steady increase. Just like the accuracy requirement goes up at a steady level each time, that's totally fine. They should really mirror that with the resistance requirement, because 350 for normal is ridiculous, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. This is where I'm saying, though, that you could really stack multiple resistance sets. My Shamrock, for example, I believe he has a resistance chest piece. He does. And I think he has a resistance banner as well. He does. This is only a 5-star banner. 6-star banner, he'd get more out of it. Resistance substats, all the rest. Resistance auras can help too. That sort of thing. With his masteries, by the way, I have him going down to more accuracy. And then I have him going down the defense tree. You could, of course, grab more resistance if you want as well. That's totally fine. You'd have to give up the bonus turn meter when you're crit, which isn't a huge deal. The main thing I want with him, by the way, is lasting gifts, extending his buffs, and extending his decreased speed debuff. And then give him more accuracy along the way. Turn meter when buffs expire. that sort of thing, right? So that's basically what we've got. Let's dive into the run. And let's go. So here we go. We are in the run. We're going at 2 times speed. I might skip around a little bit as well. What I'll do is, if you want to see the full run, like unedited, just at normal speed and without me talking, I'll put up the raw run for members of the channel, right? So it's kind of like a Twitch sub. This is sort of the thing I've been doing with some of the Hydra content. I feel like it's a good thing. Look at this. Shamrock comes in and bam, he can put decreased speed on through the poison cloud, which is just fantastic. I got a bit confused because Godseeker and Eerie like procced something and actually got her A2 back 2 times in a row. I got a bit confused. Should have saved it for this. But this is a situation, again, where Shamrock's great, right? So he gives us the increased speed and defense on turn 1. Turn 2, he can come and he can put the decreased speed on the Hydra heads. And then we got unlucky, right? We weren't successful in stealing the buff off of Head of Suffering. Geomancer comes in and steals it off instead. We didn't quite have, we weren't quite lucky. Most of the time, as you saw from the stats, whatever it is, like 84% of the time, Shamrock will successfully remove that buff. It just didn't happen this time. Bit unlucky. We had a backup, though. We could just wait for another turn, potentially, as well. But yeah, we'll see him successfully steal stuff on other turns for sure. So what is this team I've put together? Just in general, then. We talked about Shamrock. You can see what he's doing very clearly here. What we've put together, so we got Geomancer in the lead. He's going to be giving us health in all battles aura, which is great. This could easily be replaced by Shamrock in this particular team if we're pushing up into higher difficulties, or if you're struggling to meet the accuracy requirements for hard or brutal, whatever, even normal. If you're doing normal, you could absolutely swap this up. I do like the Geomancer thing just to make it a little bit safer, a little more stress-free, but it's sort of up to you, yeah? Shamrock's a great replacement, but Geomancer's in there. He's going to be doing tons of damage. He's in reflex set, so he's going to be putting HP burns up and deflecting damage onto them, doing max HP damage with his passive as well, which is just really good. And Shamrock really enables this, right? That increased speed and decreased speed. Those two things together are absolutely huge. In fact, the crit rate buff is actually nice for Geomancer as well, because he's not going to be built with high crit rate. There we go. Shamrock removes increased defense successfully from the Head of Blight, which is really useful. So yeah, Geomancer, he's going to be an MVP doing damage, makes your team tankier. He combos very well with Shamrock. The other damage dealer that we have with us, we've got Husk on the far right, who just got eaten by Husk. He'll be back out soon, though. And what Husk is doing for us there, I didn't use the decreased speed, by the way, because the cleanse is just coming. So watch out for that. That's one thing, obviously, with all your debuffers to watch out for. Husk, he's doing the max HP AoE nukes, which is totally fine. For hard and normal, really any damage dealer will do. Any good damage dealer is going to be fine. The max HP damage dealers really shoot up in viability on Brutal and, of course, on Nightmare. But for hard, you can use kind of whatever you want, right? I did a similar comp with Thea and Mithrala and Shamrock a couple of weeks ago, so you can check that out as well if you want to see it. But Shamrock wasn't booked at the time. So Husk is there for damage. We also have Inquisitor Shamail on the front left for damage as well. And he's in there specifically because we've got no way to deal with Head of Torment on this team. We've got no perfect fails, right? So Head of Torment would be fearing us left, right, and center, which we obviously don't want. Inquisitor Shamail is in there to deal with it. And he basically turns Head of Torment into a massive damage battery for our team. It's fantastic. Hilariously, Head of Torment doesn't show up in this run. So if you were to redo this run, this is a 1 key run, guys. If you were to redo it and get lucky and have Head of Torment show up, the run becomes massively easier. Like, massively easier. So this is, like, in a way, almost the worst case scenario for this particular team, which is kind of funny. So that's just something to be aware of, right? We've got Ugo here to give us block buffs and decreased defense. We obviously want that for our damage. She's not great affinity, but it works fine. She also gives us some healing, helps us stay alive. And then we have Godseeker Aniri in here as well. She is in here to, again, do some healing, do a little bit of damage. She's a defense-based damage dealer, so the increased defense from Shamrock actually ups her damage to a decent amount, and she gives us a revive if we need it, though I don't think that we particularly do. So you could, in theory, replace her with any real healer, like Sylve the Drakes could go in and be actually really good. So there you go. You could easily replace her with someone like that, and it would be fine. She's not that essential. So here we go. Poor old Shamrock has actually been eaten this time, so we'll have to try to break him out. But yeah, you can essentially see how this team comp is working. I'm going to skip ahead so we can see some more of this. Actually, let's just see the Head of Decay die, and we'll see a little bit of the damage coming out. But yeah, this team, it works really well for hard, right? It works really, really well for hard. You can see that we don't have a crazy amount of healing. These are the two big mistakes that people make, guys. Let me actually talk about that while we can see the sort of damage we're going to do to these decapitated heads. Then we'll skip ahead to where Head of Wrath comes in. But the two big mistakes people are making on Hydra, and I think this is really important. Number one, people tend to over-index on defenses. So, for example, right here, who do we have healing our team? Godseeker and Neri obviously does decent healing, but it's nothing compared to the best healers in the game, right? It's not a crazy amount of healing. Ugo is doing a nice supplemental bit of healing. You can see here we're definitely going a bit lower, so this is where it gets scarier. And then Shamrock is going to provide us some protection with his Lucky Charms when we do drop low, right? So you can see actually here no one is low enough for it to even proc, right? But we're not bringing too much healing, but we're being just fine. Like, we've got 3 straight up damage dealers in this team, and we still have enough with, you know, to make it through. So people bring a bit too much healing. The other big mistake I see people make quite a lot is bringing in block debuffs. This is a huge mistake against Head of Mischief. Like, look at this right here. There's just not going to be any way, especially on the lower difficulties where you're going to be killing heads semi-frequently at least. There's not going to be any way to consistently block those debuffs. Like, especially in this rotation where we've got a couple of heads that are Force Affinity. I'm not going to be landing block debuffs all the time successfully. There you can see the Revive on Death and Continuous Heal coming in from Shamrock. Really nice stuff on the Geomancer, helping him stay up. It's just too risky, right? If you cannot consistently, and I mean like basically 100% guarantee that you can prevent the Head of Mischief from stealing your block debuffs, don't bring it. You know, don't bring in. I know Duchess is amazing and Sifi. Duchess and Sifi are absolute god tier for this, but they're god tier when you're able to stop those debuffs actually going out. It's nowhere near as good. Nice removal once again from Shamrock. It's nowhere near as good if you can't. It's one of the big things I see go wrong with people's runs. They really have these amazing champions and they fall apart because they don't have resistance tanks like Shamrock that can like tank up the Head of Mischief and stop him stealing buffs. They don't have any of that stuff or consistent decrease accuracies, right? Let's skip on ahead. Here we go. So for example, as you can see with this particular team, okay, here's Head of Wrath. Head of Wrath comes in. Let's see how we do here. And we're obviously getting later in the run, so people are going to get eaten a lot more. But yeah, like as you can see with this team I've set up here, we don't have block debuffs. We just don't have it. But we've got Shamrock with the Guardian set helping us to stay alive. We've got obviously, you know, that small amount of healing with those particular champions helping us to stay alive. It's going to be enough. Obviously, Geomancer gives you that 15% damage reduction. So relying on that sort of stuff is much better. So yeah, I don't know, try it out. Try it out with your runs. Try it out with your teams. Maybe that is one of the things that's going wrong for you, is that you're bringing in a bunch of block debuff champions. It's getting stolen and you can't stop it. You can't remove it. Like, here we go. Shamrock removes increased attack. Really nice. He comes in again, removes with a counterattack and removes the other debuffs. Inquisitor Shamael with his A1 also does some buff removal, which is very helpful here as well, of course. But yeah, Shamrock with revenge accessories. I didn't mention that before, but those counterattacks and revenge accessories, very good, again, especially against the Head of Wrath, who does hit you so much. So you can definitely see at this point, like, this team does struggle for sure a bit against the Head of Wrath. He's really smacking us. We don't have on this team decrease attack. That's the one big thing that we're really missing. So Head of Wrath absolutely slams us. We're not really built for that. So that would be my suggestion if your champions are not as well geared. I'll show you all the gear too. If your champions are not as well geared as mine, I would probably recommend, you could even reset the run when you get to Head of Wrath. You can see I didn't because look, we've passed the 1 key. I forgot to mention that, but we've passed the 1 key, so we're totally fine, right? But Head of Wrath does start smashing us around. Shamrock will provide a good bit of protection, but as you can see at this point, we're having champions being eaten. We can't break them free. We're definitely struggling at this particular point to actually stay alive because we're over 100 turns in. So we're starting to get, you know, overrun by the heads at this point. But yeah, if Head of Wrath shows up early, I'd probably peace out. Or alternatively, I mean, it's sort of up to you. Inquisitor Shamael is in there ready to counter the Head of Torment. So you can sort of do it either way. You could take this exact comp and replace Inquisitor Shamael with someone that's going to give you like decreased attack and maybe a bit more healing. And you could deal with Head of Wrath much more easily. You can see the slam from Head of Wrath, double slam right there. It hits hard, but this time we do have the increased defense from Shamrock, and that really helps us with tanking through it. So yeah, there you go. Shamrock comes in, steals the reflect damage. Just absolutely fantastic stuff here. Unfortunately, Geomancer, yeah, he's putting out the burns, but he's getting eaten. So that's really what's letting us be overrun. Anyway, there you go, guys. Let me show you exactly how we did, and then let me show you the other builds for the other champions. So quick reference here. And I think, I feel like maybe some of my clan members are struggling with this stuff a bit. as well. Let me see. Is there anyone with like any of the like this key right here? This key right here, like this is I say this is what's going wrong with Evil K's here. I don't know for sure because I don't know how he has stuff geared. I didn't see how the runs went. Like possibly he just put them in full auto and was like, yo, I don't care. But I'd say that, you know, he's got insane champions, but what's his problem? Most likely is that he probably doesn't have enough resistance on all these champions and the buffs are getting stolen and he can't keep up. I see he's bringing in a seer to try to compensate for that. It's not quite working out. That's where, you know, champions like Krisk and Mother Cybele and stuff, you can build them as resistance tanks and it can work a bit better. But anyway, so we got some nice keys here as well, guys, if you're interested. This was almost a 1 key, actually here. 20.22, that's unfortunate. That happened to me last week as well. That happened to me last week too. But yeah, you can see this team. They've got buff control, block buffs with Hanorok and Ugo. Cool, Dark Hail coming in. I did my run as well on normal this week with Dark Hail myself. You can check it out. Mother Cybele. So I got all this stuff happening. Pretty nice. Mashal is obviously incredible. This run as well probably went pretty well too. Yeah, not too bad. Face over here. So he has done a run with Duchess. Cool. Yeah, so you get some ideas for this. This was my run though. So we did the 1 key, and again, without Head of Torment. Again, to reiterate, if Head of Torment had shown up, that was why we brought Inquisitor Shamael. Now, as you can see, in terms of Shamael's damage, he's still actually doing reasonably good damage through his counterattacks, through his direct damage. You know, it's not as much as the others, but it's still pretty solid. Now, the big thing here, obviously, Geomancer is really doing the lion's share of the work. This is Reflex set on Geomancer is just so good. And then you couple that with the fact that Shamrock bringing you increased speed and decrease speed. Getting those debuffs and buffs out helps Geomancer, especially with Reflex, get burns up on multiple targets, and that's where that damage really starts to take off. Shamrock really helps you to enable that. Husk doing decent damage as well. As I'm a bit disappointed with the Husk. I'm lacking gear to make my max HP nukers really good. I just don't have enough speed on them. You really want them to be faster than I have them. But yeah, I'll show you the gear anyway. And then yeah, Ugo doing fine. Godseeker doing a lot of the healing. You see Ugo doing a lot of healing as well. Most of this healing from him is actually just his Guardian set. Is what it is. But he's giving us the damage reduction. So lots of stuff going on there. Let me show you the builds for these champions. Go away, Mr. Gem Pack. Go away, Mr. Monthly Pack. Get out of here. Don't want to hear you. So yeah, I mean, we looked at the one epic Shamrock. We already looked at him. Godseeker Aniri, she's coming in. Fairly generalist build. So again, if we look at her resistance and her accuracy, neither one is really doing much for us on hard. So this is where I've been saying this in multiple videos now. I'm definitely due to go and update my Godseeker Aniri and rebuild her specifically for Hydra. This is a generalist build. I mean, she does a good job of healing and stuff and staying alive, but she could do better. Her masteries are like so. Inquisitor Shamael, he's actually come down into Giant Slayer, and he also has a deterrence as well, so chance to counterattack. This is really set up to just rip through Head of Torment. He's got cruel sets, which isn't essential. He's ignoring most of the defense anyway. And these are his stats. So he's in not very good stuff, to be completely honest. He's pretty mediocre, but that's okay. Now, I think the ultimate best way to build Inquisitor Shamael is probably just in a tanky lifesteal or bloodthirst build would be my recommendation. You can also work well in regen or stalwarts, something like that. But I think if you are going to run a Giant Slayer version, then probably lifesteal or bloodthirst would be the best way. One of the few champions I definitely recommend to build in those sets. And just build him super tanky. He doesn't really need to do much damage. His A2 hits really hard anyway. And yeah, he'll just heal up, and the main thing you bring him for is this passive against Head of Torment, who didn't show up in our run, hilariously. Next champion we had then was this Geomancer. So this Geomancer, he is built in Reflex. So he's basically built to be reasonably quick. He's got good resistance and accuracy. So this is one of the nice things. It's obviously, as you saw, it's not enough resistance for hard, but it is if he lands his decreased accuracy, right? So Geomancer, it's not very reliable, especially this rotation 5. Rotation 5, Geomancer's Force Affinity, Head of Mischief is Spirit Affinity. So you're going to weak hit quite often as well. So it's quite difficult to actually land decreased accuracy. But when we do land decreased accuracy on Head of Mischief, this is enough resistance, plenty, to actually resist Head of Mischief. So that's kind of awesome. And then he's got plenty of accuracy, even really for Hard Hydra, that should be plenty. So yeah, I might re-gear him at some point with more resistance, or maybe just leave it. Anyway, this is the way he's built up, and his masteries are like so. We had Rector Drath in this row, didn't we? No, we didn't. Okay, no need to give you a Rector Drath build then. You have to see another video for that one. Husk is coming in with War Master and defense stuff. And Husk is, he's built with high enough crit damage, 207 speed, and decent HP. And that's pretty much it. You're just sort of building him tanky with 100% crit rate and as much crit damage as possible. Again, I'd love to crank his speed up to like 220 or 30 would be actually pretty awesome. He's kind of slow, so he doesn't get as much out as you'd want with his Despair. But that is Husk. And I think that's pretty much everyone, isn't it? That's pretty much it. Let me double check. Did I cover everyone here? Shamail, yes. Husk, Shamrock, Ugo. Ugo's the one we still have left to look at. Where is Ugo? Ugo, again, has been in the same gear for forever. She's just in level 12 accessories, but she is built like this. So she's fast, she's got decent accuracy, and that's pretty much it. Again, you could build her very much like I built Shamrock. So her best set, I'd say, would actually be Guardian set if you're able to hit the stat thresholds. Again, you want to have her at, if you can, get her speed up high and then up her resistance and accuracy would be really useful. Like if you can get her to also have good resistance, the more champions you can build with really good resistance, the better you're going to be. It's also going to reduce their damage taken a lot against the debuffing heads. Like the poison head, just not going to do any damage if they've got 500 resistance, is it? It's not going to do much damage at all. So she's built like this, potential for regear a la Shamrock. And her masteries are like this. So there you go, guys. That was a nice one key team with 5 epic champions, obviously really good ones. And Shamrock, yeah, Shamrock, he's a great champion. He's actually really good. Hydra has finally been the point where he comes into the game and actually starts to make an impact. Obviously, his stats will go up a bit as I glyph this stuff and fully roll it up. But he's doing basically the bulk of what he needs to do. I don't know, for Nightmare, I might rebuild him again. I might take him out of the Guardian set, unfortunately, for Nightmare, just to push his resistance a bit higher if I'm not able to do it with glyphs or just maybe a couple of gear replacements. We shall see. But guys, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope it was helpful and insightful. And I will see you next time for more. Bye-bye.